video, I talked about how I have eliminated certain foods to reduce an autoimmune reaction or an inflammatory reaction in the body. And so today I wanted to talk about what an elimination diet is and how you do it and why you might want to do that. So, anyways, if you're new to watching these videos, welcome. I'm happy that you're hanging out watching them. And I have a history of autoimmune disease and chronic Lyme disease. So that's what I like to talk about and share healthy tips for recovering from chronic disease. And today I feel like sharing how to do an elimination diet, because an elimination diet is one of the most significant changes you can make in your healthy lifestyle to see symptom reduction. And if you've come to any of my events and heard me speak about my story with recovering, then you know this story that I'm about to tell you. I was in college and I was very sick, couldn't make it to a lot of my classes because I was just in too much pain to walk across campus. And so I Googled, or I searched what are the cures for rheumatoid arthritis and natural remedies and all sorts of things, and I came across a website that talked about eliminating food allergens. And it turns out that because our digestive system is weakened due to antibiotics and birth control and pesticides and stress and a whole lot of other things, we don't digest the food as well as we used to, and some of the food has been changed as well through genetic modification and hybridization, so we aren't digesting properly. Some of the proteins are getting into our bloodstream partially digested, and our immune system reacts because that's what it's supposed to do when it doesn't recognize something in the body as normal. So we are having immune responses to the food that we're eating, and this is why you might have inflammation in your arteries, in your joints, in your gut. You might have inflammation in any other part of your body where this protein can travel through the bloodstream and where your immune system can reach and cause an inflammatory reaction. So what I did was I took the advice of this website and I eliminated at that time it was about 10 foods that they suggested eliminating, and I did. I eliminated all of them. I always try to remember what they were. It was like egg, gluten, soy, dairy, red meat, chocolate, yeasty foods like alcohol and vinegar. There were corn, and I'm sure there was one or two more. But anyways, I eliminated all of them, and my symptoms were gone within 2 weeks. Arthritis, inflammatory arthritis in almost every joint, fatigue, rash, those were the main symptoms. And so I knew that this was one of my big problems, was my gut was not digesting the food well, and the food that I was eating wasn't as healthful as it should be. So I introduced in one day beer, which was a yeasty food, and chocolate and egg in a brownie, and I had a big flare-up of all my symptoms. So I knew that beer and chocolate and egg could be problems, and I identified later that chocolate's okay, but it's definitely egg and beer that aren't great for me. So, and beer has wheat also, so it doesn't have wheat, it has barley, and which contains gluten. So anyways, that's the short version of the story, but I wanted to share that with you because if you're dealing with autoimmune disease or rheumatoid arthritis in particular, or chronic Lyme disease, then doing a food elimination diet might help you reduce some of your symptoms. And that would be really great because then you could see what is left over to treat. And because the treatments are very expensive and damaging to the body in other ways, it's nice to be able to reduce symptoms in a natural way. And I promise it's a lot easier than it used to be to do an elimination diet. So just really quickly, I'll go through some of the details of how you would do that. And just the logistics are difficult because you're trying to cook and coordinate, especially if you're in a household of people. But But the protocol itself would be to choose the foods that you're going to eliminate. And I would recommend that if you're not familiar with eliminating any food allergens from your diet yet, and this is completely new to you, then just choose like 3 foods to start with, or maybe even 2. And so if you're going to choose just 2, I would choose dairy and gluten. And if you're going to choose 3, I would add eggs to that. And then if you're going to do more, I would add corn, soy, and then I would add perhaps yeasty foods, and then I would add, what else might you add? You might try black pepper, or what's another one that's strange but common? I just had it, forgot. Oh well, it'll come back to me. But you can also do a few at a time, so you don't have to go overboard and overwhelm yourself. So going back to maybe like 3, let's say you choose 3, maybe 5, then you're going to look at Google or a search engine, and you're going to try to find lists of food that contain those items. So you Google foods that contain hidden dairy, or how to find dairy on an ingredient label, or how to eat dairy free. And then you come up with all these guides, and you just glance through them, search, and you'll see things like little tricks that aren't very obvious. Caramel coloring, for example, has dairy in it, and caramel coloring is used to color white sugar to make it brown sugar. So that's what brown sugar is. It's brown sugar, it's white sugar with caramel coloring on it, which contains casein, which is the protein, one of the proteins found in dairy. So if you're doing dairy free, you have to be brown sugar free too. And then they use caramel coloring sometimes in deli meats and different things. So that's where this gets frustrating and complicated, is that if you're going to do an elimination diet, there's a learning curve. It's a steep learning curve, and you're going to have a really difficult or a very intensive hands-on learning experience in the first couple of weeks. But after that, it's like second nature, I promise. And the results can be so profound that it's worth it. So don't let that part scare you. That's why I say, if you're new to reading labels and doing this kind of thing, just start with 1 or 2 foods and see how that goes. You'll still notice results if you choose one of those big ones that I told you about, dairy, gluten, or egg, and try those first. Maybe for the first week or 2 you eliminate the dairy, and then the second week you eliminate the gluten and practice that for a week or 2. So now you've gotten dairy and gluten out, and then the 3rd week or 4th week you would eliminate eggs, and so you're taking it slow, but you're getting there. Anyways, I wanted to finish explaining the protocol. Once you choose the foods and you do a little research on what kinds of foods you are going to be avoiding, then you go to the store, or you can look at a few meal plans, but you think about what you're eating day to day, and where you're eating those foods, you just find replacements. So say you're eating eggs every day for breakfast, then maybe you would change to have sausage, or that would be the protein replacement, or maybe you do a protein shake instead. And then you would look at lunch. If you're having sandwiches for lunch, you could switch to a gluten-free bread if you really want that bread sandwich, or you could do a salad and soup to get rid of the gluten. That would be an example of how to swap out the gluten at lunch. And then for dinner, say you have like lasagna, well, that has cheese and gluten in it, so then maybe you switch to like a gluten-free pasta dish with meat sauce or something. So you could have gluten-free pasta with tomato and meat sauce, and then you'd get like kind of a similar lasagna experience. Okay, so those are just some really quick ideas. You eliminate the food for at least 2 weeks. That's ideal. You'll start noticing an improvement within 4 to 5 days, but the full 2 weeks will be most helpful to clear it all out of your system. And then if you're going to do this approach where you do eliminate one food and then you wait and eliminate the second one, so you give your chance to adjust to the new eating lifestyle, then at the end of that 2 weeks, you don't reintroduce the food yet. you add another food that you're eliminating, and you would keep going for maybe 3 foods. And so at the end of this period, you would reintroduce one food and eat it in a meal and see how you feel for the next 4 days. You wait 4 days after reintroducing a food to see how you react. And you might have dandruff, skin rash, skin dryness, bloating, stomach ache, diarrhea, headaches, inflammation in the joints, your redness in the face or the eyes. You're going to look for any of those sorts of reactions. If you are very comfortable with eliminating foods and you're just going to eliminate all the ones right in the beginning, then you can just do the elimination of all of them for 2 weeks, and then at that 2-week mark, introduce one food, see how you react for 4 days, and then after that 4 days, you decide if you're going to keep the food in or if you're going to re-eliminate it. And you would keep the food in if you feel like you didn't have a reaction when you reintroduced it. So then, this is where it's kind of complicated. You might want to take notes if you're actually going to do this. Once you've reintroduced the food and you've decided if you're going to keep it in or eliminate it, let's say you decide to eliminate it again because you had a reaction. You need to eliminate it again, and you need to wait another week at least before you try reintroducing another different food to test that one. So maybe you reintroduced gluten and you had a reaction, so take it out, wait another week, and then you want to reintroduce dairy and see if you have a reaction to that. If you do, take it back out and then wait a week for the symptoms to clear, and then reintroduce another food, say it's egg, and so on. This is a long process, but it can be so worth it. It could take a couple of months of your life to do this, but it could make the next couple of decades so much more pleasant and enjoyable. And I'm telling you this from personal experience, because I can't tell you how many people I know with autoimmune disease or any kind of inflammation, and they take supplements, they eat the healthy foods like the ferments and organic and everything, and they still have to take medication because the inflammation is still out of control. And the reason is because they haven't eliminated the cause of the inflammation. You can it's like trying to put out a fire with water, but the source of the fire is still going, so it's still gonna, burn over in that direction, and you chase after it with the water, but the source of the fire is still going, so you're never gonna put it out. And taking supplements is kind of like that. You're taking supplements to reduce the inflammation and give you more energy, but if you got rid of the cause of the inflammation in the beginning, then you wouldn't have to work so hard to make up for it with supplements and lifestyle and medication and everything. And food sensitivities and food allergies can be one major source of the inflammation. It's not the only source. You've got heavy metals and parasites and other toxins in your body, and stress and different things. But the food is a major source of inflammation. So I highly encourage you to try this if autoimmune disease or any sort of inflammatory condition is causing you to not be able to live life as you want to. It's a pain in the butt to do the elimination diet, but once you get through it and once you're comfortable with what you're eating moving forward, it's so worth it. And it's not to say that you can never eat those foods again. It's just that you now know how to make yourself feel better if you need to, and you know that you can feel better on a regular basis if you avoid those foods. And there's so many replacement foods on the market now that it's very easy to get by. And then on holidays or special occasions, no one says that you can never eat those foods. It's just for you to know how to help your body feel better and do with that information what you will. So I hope that you guys will try it. If you're experiencing inflammation and other symptoms like that that are causing you to not be able to live life as you wish you could, that's where I was, and doing an elimination diet and figuring out what foods were helping me and hurting me really made a huge, huge difference in my life. All right. I hope that this is helpful for you guys, and please do uh, put comments or questions below. Everyone has their own unique experience, and sharing helps us all. So I'd love for you to share. And if you have any questions in particular about the elimination diet, let us know below as well, and hopefully some people or myself can answer. All right. I hope that you guys have a great day and keep taking back your health because your body is meant to be healthy.